Hey guys, I'm Michael. Have you just seen the other video about the objectives and strategy? That video really is the foundation, so I hope you liked it. This video was originally intended to be about campaign structure, the hierarchy of campaigns, ad groups and product ads. There are some technical aspects to consider, and there is one structure for maximum flexibility. However, plans changed because I've received a call by a befriended merchant today. They had an interesting case, or rather a critical situation, which we've analyzed and resolved together, and they gave permission to share their case with you. The only restriction is they prefer to stay anonymous. That's why there are some identifiers in the datasets with asterisks, but that has no impact on the analysis or the findings. So yeah, I'm really excited to jump right into the challenges of daily business with you. We can talk about like the theory of campaign structure a little later. So what happened? Basically their ad spend went through the roof, and I'm not talking about an increase by 5 or 10%, but by a factor of 5. So quite a dramatic increase in ad spend. We've talked about explanations, and two spontaneous ideas was first an increase in market prices. If your competitors increase their bids, then either your average CPC increases or the number of page impressions, the number of impressions decreases. So we will look at the CPC and the impressions a little later. The second idea was rather a concern. In theory, there could be a competitor clicking on their ads just to generate ad spend. You know that's fraudulent, and Amazon does a lot to prevent that. Nevertheless, it makes sense to look into the data there as well. If there would be a significant amount of clicks, then we would see an increase in click-through rates. So that's something we can measure. So yeah, how to measure? Amazon has a number of reports that you can download via the Seller Central. However, most of those reports are meant for specific questions, and what we need is a rather universal reporting data set. Luckily, there's a software interface, the advertising API, which we can use to generate this custom master reporting. We'll take a look into the reporting first and then jump into the analysis. Okay, so this is our reporting dataset. The structure of your ad account is top down. Campaigns at the top, ad groups below, and product ads and keywords are the lowest level. However, we are most interested in the keyword KPIs like impressions, clicks, cost per click, click-through rate, and so on. So we have to build the dataset in the reverse order, or in other words, bottom up. Merely, the keyword information is not sufficient because you will book many keywords multiple times. Let's say you are selling baby products, then baby is obviously one of your keywords. Since your maximum bid depends on your margin and the conversion rate, the maximum bid depends on the product, and consequently for the same keyword, there are two different maximum bids for two different products. So this is why we need to enrich the keyword data with the product ad group and campaign information. Let's take a look at the data. We are starting with a keyword which has a match type and state. For a given date, the report date, the keyword generates impressions, clicks and cost. Click-through rate and average CPC are frequently used KPIs that you can simply calculate given the impressions, clicks and cost information. The generated traffic now generates sales. We have a total of 12 sales-related variables here, which seems quite a lot, but the logic is actually very simple. We are differentiating between conversions, or in other words orders, and sales, which is your US dollar amount. Next, we differentiate between the total numbers and the same SKU numbers. Same SKU means that a user clicks on product A and buys product A. Total means that the user clicks on A and buys product A or any other of your products. Finally, Amazon provides those numbers for 3 time frames: 1 day, 7 days and 30 days. The last column is a helper column to flag relevant observations. We have analyzed before that most ad spend has been generated by a single product with 7 child products. Analyzed is hereby actually just a fancy word for taking a look at the daily ad spend per ad group. The SKUs of those child products are in the worksheet SKU filter, and this formula searches for the relevant SKUs in the product ad information. Now it's time to enrich the keyword information. These 5 columns are just timestamps used to ensure that the report contains up-to-date information. These 4 columns are ad group information, an ID, the name, the default bid, and the state of the ad group. The next 2 columns contain product ad information. A product ad is basically linking a product to an ad group, so these columns contain the product SKU and the state of the product ad. The last 8 columns contain campaign information like the name, type, the daily budget, the start date, and the status. To analyze the data, the first step is to create a pivot chart. Our SKU flag column is added as a filter, and we choose var, or in English true here. Our row description is the report date. Before we actually start, let's quickly check the total ad spend to confirm what my friend's worried about. For the moment, we don't need a title or the legend. The value has to be the sum of cost, so let's change this from count to sum. Okay, so there are 2 outliers at the 12th and 13th of October. The average daily ad spend for the selected SKUs was on average €22.32 in October and €106.48 over the first 7 days of November, which is an increase of 477%. Okay, now let's go back to our initial hypothesis. The first potential explanation was an increase in the CPC. One tiny technical aspect: there is an average CPC column in the reporting dataset, but it wouldn't be correct to use that column in the pivot chart, because an average of the average CPC would weigh each CPC equally, and that would result in an incorrect result. All CPCs have to be weighted by their number of clicks. To calculate the correct numbers, the total cost has to be divided by the total number of clicks. In Excel, this is done by inserting a calculated field, which we call P average CPC, P for pivot, and the formula once again is cost divided by clicks. Let's add the cost and clicks to the table and change count to sum. We can now verify our calculation. On October 18th, the total cost was €15.18 and there were 33 clicks, so the average CPC is 46 cents. Perfect. Now we can remove cost and clicks from the table to take a look at the average CPC chart. Are there any significant changes? No. So the increase in market price hypothesis was wrong. Now let's take a look at the click-through rate. Again, we have to create a calculated field, which we call P average CTR. The formula is clicks divided by impressions. Let's add clicks and impressions to the table to verify the calculation again. And on October 18th, there were 6,141 impressions and 33 clicks, which yields a click-through rate of 0.537%. So our calculation is correct and we can remove clicks and impressions from the table. Let's take a look at the chart. Well, that's interesting. There's a decrease in click-through rate. A high number of bad clicks would have led to an increase in click-through rate, so there must be another explanation. Okay, so let's think about it. CPC equals cost divided by clicks. We have already analyzed that the CPC is quite constant and the total cost increased. So the number of clicks must have gone up in proportion to the increase in cost. Furthermore, the click-through rate equals clicks divided by impressions. We can see that the click-through rate decreased, and we know from the previous consideration that the clicks must have gone up. So there must have been a dramatic increase in impressions. Let's take a look at the data. Let's add the impressions to the table and change the calculation of the value to sum. That's a difference. The average number of impressions was 11,860 in October and 202,790 in November. There are two potential explanations for this. The first one is that the number of impressions per keyword increased, but given the magnitude of the increase, this is rather unlikely. The second potential explanation is that the number of keywords increased. I talked to my friends about it and they assured that no new campaigns were created and no new keywords were added to existing campaigns. So let's see if there are keywords receiving clicks that didn't receive clicks before. What I need to calculate is the number of keywords that received clicks on a daily basis. There's probably a more elegant solution, but let's quickly build a little helper pivot chart. Let's copy the report date and the keyword text. A keyword should occur no more than once per day, so let's create a helper column to concatenate date and keyword. This number, 42,681, is the number of days since January 1st, 1900. This is how Excel handles dates internally. Now let's remove all duplicates. And now we can create a second pivot chart. The report date is again the row description and the count of keyword text is the number of unique keywords that received clicks on a specific day. Okay, so the number of keywords that generated impressions went up from 43 in October to 223 in November. So what's the explanation? To be honest, I'm not 100% sure, but I have a theory. Let's keep in mind that a keyword has to be in the product data to generate impressions. My hypothesis is that Amazon has maybe re-indexed this information and now a lot of old keywords have started to generate impressions. So let's summarize. Yes, there was an increase in ad spend, which was caused by a dramatic increase in impressions. That increase in impressions was generated by the keywords. There are just far more keywords now receiving impressions and clicks. And actually that's amazing because it gives you more options. You can pause high CPC keywords and thereby lower your customer acquisition cost and increase your profit margin. I know it has been quite a technical video, so if you have any questions, please leave a comment. I'll do my best to answer them. If you like the video, a thumbs up would be great. And if you like the transparency you can get from data and the growth potential it has for your Amazon business, then please subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching. Yours, Michael.